This is a philosophy through pop culture channel. We review pop culture. We see it. It's trending. It's everywhere. Little Tay's everywhere. How do we philosophically look at this story from a perspective of wanting to actually be good and make the world a better place? Okay. So obviously on this channel, we focus a lot on deconstructing the patriarchy because boo. And the patriarchy plays a role in this, but so does capitalism, which I think plays a much bigger role in a big way. But I just want to remind you of who Lil Tay is, okay? Because I think some people might forget.
Obviously, you can't drive, but do you drive?
I've seen her drive.
Duh, you just saw me drive a Rolls Royce on my page.
Again, with the dumb questions, this guy, right? Jeez.
Dumb questions.
I guess I'm full of them.
You haven't cursed once the whole time you've been here, so thank you.
Okay, just fuck off, okay?
Okay. What do you say to the people who think everything you're doing is fake?
Why would, I don't understand. Why do you think everything I'm doing is fake? I have all this money on my own. It's not that surprising. I'm the youngest flexer of the century. I'm rich. I'm richer than your whole family. I'm richer than your grandma, all your friends, everyone you know. I don't know. I don't understand why you think everything is fake. I have proof that I don't rent my cars. You can go check out my video. I dented that Rolls Royce.
You did.
Okay. This is Lil Tay 7 years ago. She just turned 18. Made $1 million in 3 hours on OF. Okay? So she got famous because her and her brother were, I think, in a rental, or her father was like a real estate agent or something. And they made this video of her holding a stack of money. And she's like, I'm rich, you're poor, I'm rich. And she went viral. And her and her brother continued to try to make viral content. But who is Lil Tay? Why would her and her brother do this? Who's his mom? Who are their parents? Okay. So this is her Instagram. She currently has almost 6 million followers. She says the link is out, freshly 18. This is the page, you can see these are the photos, porn star, okay, porn star in training, wow, amazing, wow. Okay, she showed proof, this is how much money she made, okay? And then here, TMZ and everybody's covering the story, oh my God, this is crazy. Okay, but who is Lil Tay and why is she doing these things? Okay, and so a big part of the criticism is the men who are buying the OnlyFans, which I agree. I myself did not buy this girl's OnlyFans, even as a faux, little investigator myself. I don't need to see it. I kind of hope the OnlyFans is just her in normal clothes, like a bikini or something, instead of actual pornographic material for men, because I have so many thoughts on that. We'll get into that. But I have an OnlyFans. Brittany does. Me. I'm 36 years old. And I didn't do it to make money. I did it because I believe that nudity is inherently neutral. I did it because I believe I was old enough to make that decision. I did it because I do believe in adult activity. I did it because I have protested nude, been nude, gone to nude events. I did it because I think society demonizes the human body in ways it shouldn't. I did it because I was, I think, in a position in my life to be wise about it, right? I wasn't 18. Okay, when I was 18, I was busy leaving the Catholic Church and deconstructing religion and becoming an atheist. I was busy reading hundreds of books trying to figure out who I was in the universe. The difference between Lil Tay and me is our family dynamics. So if you go to Lil Tay's page, because I was curious, what makes this girl do what she does? If you go to her page, one thing about Lil Tay that people kind of ignore are her family dynamics. Her mom is Asian, her dad is white. We all know about those dynamics. And her dad and her, according to everything she posts, have a very bad relationship because he stole allegedly millions of dollars from her. He is legally not allowed to talk to her. They have a very bad dynamic. We're talking about instability. She calls him racist. Her mother claimed domestic abuse. They have a lot, of issues, right? So when you think about it, that's very different than somebody who is coming out of my position, which is my parents have been married for decades. They did not have domestic abuse. I was leaving my religion, but I didn't have problems with my parents' marriage, didn't have the problem. So when girls talk about, or people talk about daddy issues, right? And people talk about dysfunction. I do think the Belle Delphines, who also had a destructive relationship, the Lana Rhodes, who also had a destructive relationship, the Lil Tays, who also have a destruction relationship, yes, get into porn young. Because they think it's an easy way to get out because men keep telling them it is, and then men reinforce that by giving them millions of dollars. So then you start to think, okay, well, if I can make $1 million because I just turned 18, who wouldn't do that? Pause. This is where ethics come in. what 18-year-old is going to know what their values are? Like, what 18-year-old truly has the wisdom to understand how to make an adult decision like this, right? So this is society reinforcing this idea that, you know, selling feet pics is easy, you'll be a millionaire. And they don't take into account that this is 8 years in the running of her and her brother going viral at any cost, including pretending that they died that one time. Remember that? Okay. So legally, she's 18, she can do what she wants. Morally, ethically, I'm not putting the onus of responsibility on a teenager. I'm putting it on the people collectively making this belief reinforced that if you turn 18 and go on OnlyFans, you'll be a millionaire. Okay? That's what I think is important. Okay? That's the thing. So again, look at these videos. Okay? So she started like teasing the OF stuff a while back, but she actually had taken a hiatus from the internet. I'll get into that in a second.
Okay, y'all want to know the real reason that I'm dropping the link on my 18th birthday? I'm broke as shit. This is the same fit that, this is the only fit. This is the only fit that I own. It's literally the same fit that I was wearing on Rakai's stream. That was months ago. That's why I haven't been posting content. I'm literally broke. Just let a girl get her bag.
Okay, here's another one.
18, and honestly, my biggest reason for wanting to drop the link has been Sabrina Carpenter and Sydney Sweeney. They are literally my top inspirations, and honestly, for anybody that doesn't like them and shitting on them and doesn't think they're inspirational,
you need to check your misogyny.
they're getting so much backlash, but just think about the beginning of any revolution. Like, this is reminiscent of the time that women were fighting to vote, because why are we fighting to be free to express ourselves? Everybody out there, every girl out there
Should see Sabrina Carpenter
and Sydney Sweeney as their inspirations. They're the ones that are bringing women forward into 3025. If everybody's saying that they're bringing women back 100 years, you're just hating. You don't want women to be able to express themselves. But that's why I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to be the youngest one to stand behind
Sabrina and Sydney, and I'm gonna drop this link.
So make sure to turn on notifications. It's dropping soon.
Okay, so obviously, when I say it's easy to go viral, but it's hard mentally, or at least it would be for me, it's because, like, this is just like a troll, right? She's not serious. But if the news starts picking it up, like, young 18-year-old girl says Sydney Sweeney and whoever else, Sabrina Carpenter, inspired her to be an OnlyFans model, boom, right? Like, it's really typical and obvious rage bait in order to go famous, right? And so there's, chat says the AAV annoys me so much. So Lil Tay was also scrutinized by Black communities for obviously co-opting, quote, like any part of Black culture to kind of go viral, right? And that's very common. I know a lot of white people talk about co-opting Black culture, or a lot of Black people talk about white people doing it, but now they're also criticizing Asian communities, because a lot of Asian communities, a lot of K-pop artists co-opting Black culture for virality. So, they say Black people make the culture, but nobody gives them the credit. It's obvious, but that's the thing. Nobody wants the originator. They want to prove that they can be better than the originator, even though they never are. And like, that's what's even more ironic is, like, we all know the underground artists are always better than when the mainstream gets a hold of their art. We always know the original people are better and more authentic and just like actually in it for the right reason than the people who co-opt it to, like, water it down for capitalism, because it is for capitalism. It is ultimately always for exploitation, because they want the bag. And so you have to think about it from that perspective. Like, this is what she's been brought up in. This is what she's been reassured works. She's probably been influenced by her brother and her mother, because they're obviously in favor of this. But she is a teenager being used because she's blonde and skinny and small and childlike. And it works, right? It works. And that's a testament to where society is and always has been. And just another example of dysfunctionality and how there's no one in her life who wants to protect her. Because again, I'm not anti-sex work, but I would never tell my little sister or my little cousin who's 18 and being like, should I make freshly, 18 content? No, you should never engage in creating content that baits or encourages pedophiles to like your content. You should never want to exploit the worst part of the population for money, because you still have to make the content that gets them aroused. No, you do not want to participate in this. Right? Because look, getting adults to be turned on, generally not unethical. Getting adults who like children to get turned on, unethical. There is a difference. Okay? Like, you have to, I'm not against adults doing porn for like regular ass kind of interests. But if the interest they have is kids, then no, you cannot participate in this. Okay?
You already know what the fuck going on. Lil Tay's dropping the youngest link of the century. Mark your calendars tomorrow, 3 p.m. EST. And nobody, including my family, including the grown-ass haters, is gonna stop me. You know why? Lil Tay rich and finna get richer, bitch.
Okay, right? It's all the publicity.
You already know what the fuck going on. We just broke the link record with the youngest link of the century. $1 million in a couple hours. I'm still the youngest one doing it. For all the grown-ass haters who've been hating since I was 9 years old, look at me now. What y'all got to say? Y'all been doubting me for 7 years. You can hate on me all you want. You can't say Lil Tay ain't winning. So for everybody out there, do whatever the hell you want with your life. Who gives a fuck what people have to say? And remember this. Lil Tay rich and finna get richer. Oh yeah, and thank you to all my supporters who have pre-ordered since 2018 or whenever you did.
Because people have been counting down since she was a kid. You know? That says finna get richer when she admitted she's broke. Well, that's the thing. I don't even know if she's broke. Right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Nothing she says matters. Like Andrew Tate, nothing they say matters. Everything they say is a part of the bit. Like, I don't know if she's broke or if she's been rich. I don't know what she is. Right? Everything she says is a part of the bit. Like, it's like a character you play. You know, it's really a character you play and you show up as that character. That's why, you know, when people keep the bit going for so long in every interview, everything, they're like, who is this person? But yeah, people have been literally waiting for this since she was literally a child. Now, if you go through her Instagram posts, which I was doing because, you know, it was the easiest way to see things. Now, okay, there's like this line, what happens, okay, like this picture here, it's a Britney Spears remake of the Britney Spears I'm a Slave for You. She's a minor in this photo, right? And I get it because like Britney Spears was a minor for all of those videos that she did. And though I think they're classic, I never like, when Britney was a teenager and I was a teenager, it was a little different, but like as an adult, I never go back and watch old Britney in high school and think like she's so hot. I just think like, oh, the dancing's so on point and the costumes are so on point. And I always just think like, oh my God, I wish I could dance like that. I never think about Britney being attractive because once I've aged out, even though Britney's older than me, Britney Spears is older than me. It's like, why is a kid recreating this? Now look, this is her mom. She says, my mom spent her life savings fighting for my life against my abusive, misogynistic, racist father. Now I'm back. I'm the #1 hottest independent artist. Out trending every major label artist with $1 million budgets. This would be impossible without my mom and my brother. Sucker for Green, link in bio, 95 weeks ago. Okay. So it's like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like, she has a music video. She's got like, this aesthetic's fine, by the way. I think this is an okay aesthetic for a young person. Like, she's a teenager. She's in like a high school, probably 16, 17. This is fine. I don't think there's inherently anything really inappropriate about this particular fit, right? It's the other fits that I'm like, why are you dressed that way? Like, why is this? Like, this feels like this one is a little too much for me because it's a Britney Spears recreation. I'm a slave for you and you're a minor. So it feels like inappropriate. Right? She's raising money for other people, which is really cool. And then there's a weird timeline here where like her dad, okay, he's like, he like gets challenged by the brother, right? And this is the dad.
In child support. Do you know this? You haven't been in her life for years and now you show up and now you want to use her.
And so he has a girlfriend and they're saying that him and the girlfriend have basically like taken her money and used her. And that's why she disappeared. So this, you can see this Tay is young and then all of a sudden it jumps. There's like kid Tay and then boom, she's back. And so there is like a jump and this is the official statement. So basically like this is the proof that everything that's been happening with her dad and stuff are true and that the dad is allegedly the issue. Right? And so, I don't know, there is like something to be said about why this even happens in the first place, but I really do think it's the dysfunction of it all. Like, I think it started at home in their parent, like in their home. Okay? Because I know a lot of people say, because I'm older, so I'm using myself as an example, and because I'm a sex worker, I use myself as an example. People say like, are you on OnlyFans because you have a bad relationship with your family? I was literally like, what was I, like 30 when I did OnlyFans? Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay. And I was already naked and I already engaged with it differently. I'm not on OnlyFans to appeal to men like that. I'm not trying to get a capitalistic one-up on a misogynistic system. I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to say your misogyny is not the reason why I will deny that sex positivity can be real. That's the problem. Sex positivity is real. Part of deconstructing misogyny and dismantling it from our, automatic way of thinking is reminding people that there was nothing wrong with sex work to begin with. The only thing that the thing that made it wrong was how you interacted with it. And this is a part of that problem. Interacting with sex work as a way to tease people about being barely legal. Okay, just turned 18. Seconds ago, I was illegal. And seconds later, I'm legal. This is bad. Like, I almost think OnlyFans as a company shouldn't allow you to post till you're 21. And then at that point, like, it is what it is. But I really do think, like, because, in some ways, I will take into consideration that there could be other 18-year-olds interested in her. And that's, that makes sense. They're in the same age group, right? They're in the same age group. But at the end of the day, I can't account for how many of those 18-year-olds are engaging with 18-year-old porn. Because, like, that's probably fine. But it's the idea that it's not just 18-year-olds. And I will be so for real with you. I was thinking about this today. Because my partner and I are both pro the adult community. I even asked them, like, hey, what during our courting together, what porn do you watch? What are you interested in? What are your kinks? Because I think that tells you a lot about a person. And we would share and exchange, like, what we were into. We talk about fantasies all the time. Like, oh, when I was young, I used to be really into this. Or like, oh, I was really into this. And like, oh, why aren't you into it anymore? Or what do you like? Or who on OnlyFans did you like? Or who did you subscribe to? And if you're on a date with somebody and they're like, oh, I got the Lil Tay OnlyFans, date over, boo. Date over. You know what I mean? If you're with a guy on a date or a girl on a date or gender neutral or whatever you are on a date, and they're like, oh yeah, I checked out the Lil Tay thing, even out of curiosity, bro, not even curiosity could get me to do it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to engage with it. I'm not looking at no 18-year-old nudes. Ain't no way, bro. And that's the thing. Maybe I'm just too old at this point, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I'm not saying it's wrong to be 18 and naked, because I don't think it's wrong to be naked in general. But yeah, I don't really want to go check out the OnlyFans, Yeah, Chad says, wait till you find out how many married men pay for OF. I don't care if married men pay for OF. What's wrong with being married and paying for OF? I'm partnered and I pay for OF. My partner and I are married. We have no problem engaging with OF. There's nothing wrong with being married and on OF. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I have married people who are on my OF. What do you mean? Like, that's not the problem. The problem isn't that your married partner buys OF. The problem is how they engage with it. That's the issue. And that's what's missing in the conversation, is like, we keep thinking like, yeah, Chad says the problem is many guys do it in secret. Well, the problem is people are liars. The problem is y'all married liars. The problem is that we normalize lying to our partners. The problem is that girls also need to deconstruct their own issues around misogyny and such, because a lot of people really, they say, don't tell me. I don't want to know. Well, that's the problem. Okay? Like, that's the problem. We've normalized lying and deceiving so much. I mean, look at Bad Baby, who literally won't leave her marriage just because he hit her, quote, because she said, oh, so he just hit me and I'm supposed to leave? Yes! Yes! But, like, she won't, because she's like, well, I was abused worse than that by my mom. And everyone says that's my mom and I should be nice to her. We need to pay attention to how we're raising our children, right? Discord said, do you think porn categories like barely legal and teen should be illegal and considered unethical? Yeah. Yeah. I think porn sites shouldn't be allowed to title it that. Yeah, I think anything that normalizes the taboo around kids should basically be redone in terms of categorizing things. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you can't fulfill a power dynamic fantasy in which people are role playing. I'm saying anything that contributes from a business perspective that entices people to engage in a belief that they're possibly looking at a minor in a real life is just not it's a no-go. It's a no-go. Yeah, it's a no-go. I don't like it, right? Discourse said people aren't free to do whatever they want when they turn 18. There are still laws and all. That's true. But legal in general doesn't mean moral. Yeah, actually, great point, Discord. Just because like you're 18 doesn't actually, there are lots of things you can't do. Like you can't drink, right? You can't smoke in a lot of places. I don't know if the 21 age is just in Cali and Washington and other places. I think it is in Washington. But yeah, there are plenty of things you still can't do at 18. Isn't that ironic? I can't get a drink, but I can join the military? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I can buy a gun, but I can't get some alcohol? Make it make sense. You know? Are we talking about how like are you guys talking about how like free speech plays a role in this? Chess says, how do you feel about age play and DDLG these days? I have a very different relationship with those communities because I was engaged in it and reading the books. Most DDLG people I know did not engage in sex when they were in DDLG mode. And so for me, like most of the BDSM I experienced in my time in the scene was not sexual. So it's very confusing because the vanilla world sexualizes everything. And this is the irony. Vanillas think BDSM is all about sex. Vanilla life is all about sex. BDSMers are not as much about sex as you think. You know, that's the irony of it, is underground communities are not having as much sex as you think. And so the vanilla communities sexualize absolutely everything. And so their brain goes to the worst possible thing. But like so many BDSMers aren't having that. So like I dated a girl who is a DDLGer, and I've been to DDLG events at my dungeons. And when I would go, nobody was having sex. Nobody was naked. And even if they were naked, it was like a different kind. But they were just like coloring and eating brownies and hanging out together. So like, it was just like, okay, I think a lot of men are into DDLG because there is a fantasy there and it's dangerous. And I think a lot of the girls who are in it might also be in it because they're looking for a dad, which is a whole other conversation. But I don't think DDLG is inherently sexual, right? It just depends on how you utilize it. And same thing, you know, my Discord and I were just talking about race play and all that other stuff because Bob the drag queen was outed recently of being on a podcast that I think was behind a paywall and saying that he thought it was really hot, like a white guy calling a black person the N-word and doing like slave dynamic stuff. And like you think about it from that perspective and you're just like, wait, what? Hold on, I should probably not say that without showing you the proof. Let's bring it up actually, because I think this ties into the Lil Tay stuff so much. Is like ultimately we have to think about how our kinks do come from negative or possible places. Like we have to think about where our kinks come from. We have to think about where our attraction to things come from. But I don't think it's always inherent. But I do think like certain contexts, it's always bad. Like this is always bad. Like this is a really good example of something that just like is always bad. Here's an example.
He had that white boy calling him I can't believe, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I'm like, that is so hot. It's kind of hot. Is that horrible? That is so bad. It's kind of hot though. Oh my God, our listeners are gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all fucking motherfuckers? Like, I don't necessarily think that I want it for me, but I like it. It was kind of hot to see someone else having that interaction. Oh no, that could not work for me. Oh bitch, we will be fighting. But to see the interaction, I was like, oh, that's kind of hot. Yeah, it probably won't work for me, but it's cool to watch.
Okay, so she's been going, this content creator has been going back and forth. The Medusa show has been going back and forth because Bob was in her comments like, what did I do? And she's like, this is what you did. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm not going to get involved. But, okay, so Bob and Monet were having this conversation. It was quite controversial. Listen, first, there's a couple dynamics here I want to deconstruct with you, okay? Race play, which I never saw in the dungeon. In all the years I was doing BDSM, I never saw anyone interact with race play. People talked about it, but like I never saw a scene or never saw anybody do it. And to be fair, there weren't a lot of Black people in the scene. And race play exists outside of Black and white dynamics, of course, but like nobody engaged with it, okay? But in this particular scene, it would require the white person to also say the slur to their partner. So who's the white person who's willing to say the slur? Who's the Black person who's willing to subjugate themselves in that situation? And where does it stem from? Same thing when you're doing rape play fantasies, so C&C. If your partner is willing to really hurt you and actually call you a slur like a bitch and mean it with venom, what are we doing? I never engage in C&C in which I was called names. I don't like humiliation play. I actually, and this is not me saying I'm better than people, but I do not engage in any BDSM play that's about like, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're a bimbo, you're a bitch, like none of that. Never happened, never will happen, absolutely not. Okay? Like that's not, because that's, for me, that is, you have to be such a deconstructed male or man to ever engage in that behavior and not really mean it. Right? So again, I think you have to be careful about what you engage with. The only time I engaged in C&C in a sexual context with my live-in partners was when we would be like, you know, like you do the little fantasy of like, oh my God, you know, you're just like, you know, it's just like, pull my hair, you know, it's like you're obviously acting. It's not in any way real. Okay. It's not in any way threatening. I'm not actually trying to be raped over here. The problem is, when you engage in race play dynamics and somebody's got to call you the hard, you know, ER, well, I'm not sure how that isn't racist, right? I'm not sure how that didn't just become racist. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you do that without? I don't know. So age play is a little bit interesting because in the dungeons I was in for age play, guys, a lot of the DDLG couples I knew were 35 and 50. They were 50-year-old women with 30-year-old guys. Like a lot of the age play people I knew, the younger partner in the relationship or the person who was the little was literally could have been 60. So for me, when I hear people talk about DDLG, like daddy dom and little girl, you're all imagining 18-year-olds, but I didn't have that experience. My lived experience of actual people in the community is these people are old. Now, here's a caveat. Fun fact for new people to my audience, I used to be a BDSM peer educator. And when I did that, a lot of young people watched my channel. Okay, that was the one time when I was on YouTube and a lot of young people, especially girls, were watching me. And I've engaged in DDLG play. I've done the whole like cute clothes, got out with my girlfriends, all that. Okay. One of the things that I noticed is that they were mostly online. And there was they weren't well read. They weren't educated. They were not engaging in the community, understanding the lore. They weren't engaging in BDSM or kink, understanding the dynamics. They just thought, I want to do it and I look cute. Yes, but before we engage in activity, we should think about how it's playing a role in uplifting like bad things, right? So I think sometimes we forget like it's not just about the taboo. It's also about us just showing up in our everyday life. Why do we change language? Why do some of us go, oh, we don't use that word anymore? It's because the world has changed and we need to update. We need to educate ourselves we'll boost our communities into being a healthy space. And not all BDSM communities are the same, right? So I think sometimes people just have like an experience, and I agree that there is a bad way to have an experience in BDSM. I remember a while back, years ago, and this was really hard because everybody was so fucked up, but I ran into on the internet like a bad dom and I collabed with him. It's all private now. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't understand. Because like, again, I just like always think the best of people, a big mistake. And I started getting an understanding that like, oh, he was a bad person. And for legal reasons, you know, we're going to keep it at that. But like, he was a bad person. And he was one of those people who takes advantage of people. He was one of those people who I do believe broke consent multiple times with people based off of the evidence I saw, based off the pictures that I saw, based off of like the messaging that I saw, that you can't hold all predators accountable, right? You might not have the money to or the access or whatever your thing is, but even the people who were going against him were bad. Like that was so hard for me as a learned lesson because even some of the people involved with it were also covering for other bad people. And those bad people were pretending like it was just like such a toxic situation. And I realized, much like the streamer situation with all these streamers, once you start going for the one person and you start unraveling it, you realize like it's all bad. It's like bad all the way down. Like the main predator is the main predator 100%. But when you start to unravel like everybody else, you realize like, uh-oh, this is bad. And that's how it kind of feels with Hollywood and all these other people. It's like you unravel Epstein and you realize like Epstein didn't run this empire alone, girls. He had help, right? It was like, damn, like there is like, it can feel overwhelming. And then you're like, I don't want to do it anymore. Because if it's just going after one person, it feels doable. But then you realize it's hundreds and hundreds of people. You're like, so when we think of Lil Tay and we think of the industry, what we're really talking about is Lil Tay's involvement in taking advantage of the system. So let's talk about it from that perspective. Okay. Is Lil Tay smart for using the advantage she has to make money off pathetic men? In some ways, capitalistically, 100%. Ethically and morally, this is the opportunity for you to die on the hill of your values. So I wouldn't do this. If somebody came to me tomorrow and said, Britt, I'll give you $1 million to film a video of you like shitting on a piece of pie or shitting on Trump's face, would you do it? I'd be like, no. But if I, as a performance artist, wanted to take a shit on Trump's face for free, I would do it. But I'm not going to get paid to do something I wouldn't do. I do not do things for money I refuse to do. If I won't do them for free, I ain't doing it. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I would even go to work if I wasn't being paid. Okay, you need to talk to yourself about that because that's kind of crazy. Yes, we all do jobs for money. But at the end of the day, like you got to talk to yourself about, are you doing something that truly is like so abhorrent to you that you'd only do it for money? Because like, I'm not going to do that. If I wouldn't do something like for free, I'm not going to do it for money. Okay. And I think that's the problem people don't understand. Like I remember when I started my OF, I hadn't been like fully naked on the internet, like, spread eagle. And people were like, oh, hold on, wait, try to make the most money possible before you make this happen. And I resented that idea because I thought, I'm not playing some capitalistic game. Either I'm going to spread eagle for myself or I'm not going to do this because like it's about empowering me to feel, very confident. I had already been naked in public a bunch of times, right? Because I'd been to nudist events, but on the internet, knowing it'd be there forever, there's something about that had to be for me. It couldn't be because I was getting paid. It couldn't be because I was trying to trick people to hold out until it happened. It couldn't be for any of those reasons. And I don't like that. I don't like doing things for the benefit of just, quote, capitalism or making money. Like money is not that interesting to me. And I think a lot of people do think it's interesting, but they're so unhappy. None of these people are happy. I've never seen a rich, happy person in my life. I rarely meet them. Okay, maybe that's a lie. I've met a few, I guess. But like most of the people I meet who are rich are not happy. So like I can't envy their money. You know what I mean? And I think about that all the time, right? Let's see. Chat says, I think Tana said they're going to sexualize you anyway. Might as well make money from it. Yeah. No. No. How about no? How about I don't think so? No. Do you know what I'm saying? No. Like, but I am very stubborn. I grew up Christian enough that I'm willing to die on a hill, girl. I did. I grew up Christian enough that I'm willing to die on a hill. I am. Kill me, bitch. I don't care. I'm not doing it. I'm very stubborn, but that's a part of my, that's a part of me. That's like part of Brittany as a person. Like, I'm not doing it. And I know other people wouldn't. Like, I know other people are like, but what if it makes you homeless? Rather be homeless. And people go, you just say that. But first of all, okay, how many times in my life got to be $0 in my account to tell you right now? I know the difference. Here's the thing. Unhoused people aren't just homeless because they're bad with money. There's a mental health component. I am mentally sound. I know how to live with no money. if you have no money and you're unmentally sound, you're going to be, your unhoused problem is different. Okay. That's a different relationship. And that's what I think people are forgetting. When you're in a position and you are mentally sound, which I am, then there is a position in which I can say no to a job because I could literally get any other job that won't make me feel like I'm sacrificing my values. I am not in a position mentally that I cannot just get another job. But other people aren't there. And that's fine. But most people are not in that position. Most people can get another job. They just don't think they can. And that's how abusers put you in a situation where it feels like I have to say yes to bullshit. That's why I say the one thing I want to give you is the ability to believe in yourself. So you don't have to give in to any of these fucking men, bro. Tell them to go suck dick and leave. And I want you to be so confident that you could do that because you have the data to back it up. I want you to have the data to back it up. And by the way, men feel this too. When men are faced in really uncomfortable situations at work, they will bypass their values to maintain that paycheck. And I'm saying that's on you. At some point, it's on you. Not in every situation, not always, but too many of us are too privileged not to walk away. And again, this goes back to this idea of dying for your values. You know, are you willing to take a chance on yourself for your values? Can you do this? It's hard. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying like, I sleep better at night, you know, doing it that way. Again, this goes back to the fact that I block people on OF who are rude to me. Your $20 isn't enough money, or any money isn't enough money for me to let you be rude to me. Right? I don't care if you offered me $1 million. I'm not letting you call me names. And I think a lot of people think they do it for the money. And do this hypothetical with yourself, okay? If somebody offered you $1 million, what would you be willing to do? Okay, where is your line? Okay, where is your line? Because for a lot of people, it won't cost that much. That story, you remember that story that just came out a few weeks ago about a mom who sold her kid for like $2,000? I was like, $2,000? You sold your baby daughter for $2,000? Like, you know what I'm saying? The world is happy to do anything for even $10. Trisha Paytas used to say that she was a sex worker and would blow people for $10. I'm like, $10? That's how you know it's a mental health crisis. Only a mental health crisis allows you to blow somebody for $10. And that's why my heart goes out to them, because that's a mental health crisis. $10? That's crazy. That's not even, you know what I'm saying? $10. I accept that people are having a mental health crisis, but if you're not one of those people, why are you only doing it for $10? Come on, girls, $10? That's what I'm saying. Like the housing crisis or the homeless crisis or unhoused crisis, like that is a mental health crisis. Lil Tay is a mental health crisis. This is a mental health crisis because no little girl needs to be 18 and fucking on OnlyFans. No little kid, no boy, nothing. Oh, who is the boy? What's that boy's name? Sketch? Hello, brothers. That one? Who's that guy? Brothers? Who's that guy? That's a kind of a Jordan Peterson voice there. Brothers? Who's that kid? He went on OnlyFans because he really needed money. He shouldn't have been on OnlyFans. He was too young to be on OnlyFans. What is he doing on OnlyFans? Wasn't he 18? Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't matter your gender. Sketch. Why are you on OnlyFans? Because you need money. Unless you're ready. You can't be on OnlyFans in secret, is what I'm trying to say. You can't be on OnlyFans in secret. But if you're doing it just to make, look at this picture. Look at this stupid ass picture. Whose parents? Look at Lil Tay with her little bundles of money. Arrest these parents. Arrest these parents for letting her be posted onto the internet. Do you know what I'm saying? This is so stupid. This is her parents. An adult raised this little girl, and they are at fault for everything. Okay? I don't care that you made $1 million. This is mental health. It's not mental health that you're a sex worker. It's mental health that you basically groomed your daughter and sister to be this person on the internet. This girl probably got told you're the only chance this family has of getting out of poverty. How many daughters? Raise your hand. How many daughters and sons are told our only chance of getting out of poverty, especially if you're an immigrant? Okay, this is why I say one thing I will say about my parents is they never made me feel like their bills were my responsibility. I will say this about my parents. Not one time did my parents insinuate that their kids would have to pay their bills. And this is why we're more than happy to help my parents out when they need it in retirement. Because I don't like that shit. You did not have me to become your bank account. And I think it's bullshit. You need to break that. You need to tell your parents, I'm sorry you immigrated here and had me. I'm not your bank account. I'm not your bank account. Okay? And whatever else is going to happen, right? You're not my girl. Wait, Discord just sent this to me. Wait, why does I hate that Instagram actually mutes it right away. Hold on.
How much money would it take as a straight man for you to suck another man's meat? That is a question as old as time itself between straight guys. And a lot of you guys be giving some bullshit answers. You get a little too crazy with it. You're like, oh, $1 billion. I wouldn't do it for any less than $1 billion. Really? $1 billion? I got a lot of friends who are dirt fucking poor. I got some buddies that I know for a fact $500 would change the trajectory of the next 6 months of their lives. Cash in hand in front of you, it's not going to take that much for a lot of y'all. And also, you got to look at it this way. I think the higher your price is, the gayer that answer is. Because what you mean your head game is worth $1 billion? You got $1 billion throat? My head game is worth jack fucking shit. I don't know what the hell I'm doing down there. There's no way it's going to be good. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a lot of things, but a scammer is not one of them. You got to kind of assess the situation, and this is sort of how I would approach it. I would honestly just kind of do this shit for free, and then after I'm done, me and the guy can discuss and assess the value after the action is already completed. Oh, I want $500 grand for the blowjob I'm about to give you, and then give him some whack shit, and then he's like, yo, what the fuck? That sucked. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You know what I mean? Like, you have to assess your value. My value is super low right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I look at it as like, if you go to a pawn shop, if you take something like jewelry or any sort of item, you know, you have a price in mind, but they've got to look at the item. They got to look at the jewelry and then assess the value based on that, and then you guys negotiate prices after the fact. Like, if I take a piece of jewelry, they got to test the diamonds. They got to see if it's scratched up. They got to see what it's worth, and then
oh my God, how long is this video?
they're going to say a price, and then you guys negotiate afterwards. So that's how I would approach
Chat said it keeps going too. Oh God.
that situation. We negotiate after the fact. And the thing is this too, you gotta look at it like this. Like, you gotta play the long game with this shit. Like, in this hypothetical situation, like, yeah, my first one's gonna be whack. Like, maybe I'm gonna get $5 from it. Like, because that's probably what it's worth if we're being honest.
Look, in other industries, this is true. In other industries, like when I was a nanny professionally, I started off at $12 an hour. And then I got to $700 a week. And then I got to $700 plus bonuses. Okay? That's true. Right? Like, you start off minimum wage, and it was, by the way, it was 2 kids for $12 an hour down to 1 kid for $700 plus a week. So yeah, that's how you do it. But when it comes to certain kinds of things like sex work, the reason you start a premium for sex work is because there always should have been one in the first place. Men in misogyny kept it so women could not charge their proper prices for sex work, which is why we have people not charging enough. We should all be charging high prices. Yeah, the sex workers can make a decision if they would like to, you know, make a deal with their clients. But in general, we should all be charging way too much money. We should be all charging too much money. There should be a caliber for our bodies, okay? Same thing with labor, manual labor. If you're going to break your back going to work, you should be paid more, okay? If you sit at a desk... You know what I'm saying? You know how everyone, you know, the irony of living in America is that if you sit at a desk, you get paid more than if you do manual labor. We got to talk about that. We should reassess that. We need to reassess it. Okay. So we need to set a standard. That's why my OnlyFans is $20 a month. Because it doesn't matter if you think it's worth it. What matters is that you are not entitled to it. So if you will pay it, that's the point. Why is my YouTube... Okay, why is my YouTube $2 for the first membership price? Or on Patreon, it's $1. Because ultimately, the standard is that you're supporting the work you already like. Okay? OnlyFans is not, we haven't deconstructed misogyny enough to just be out here throwing our pussy around for $20. Or not $20, but like $5 for a blowjob. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta put a premium price on it, okay? So like, that's the point. Is like, you got to put some sort of a price on it. But most people do it for like, I think it's like $5 is the average OnlyFans, you know, walk through the door. I think Belle Delphine was the first one to do $35, which was so controversial. But good for her. Belle was smart. See, Belle was fucking smart. It should have been $35. Lil Tay did $20. Good. $5? See, Trisha did the $5 thing. Trisha made a lot of money doing $5. But see, Trisha, you know what I mean? There's just like something about it. Oh, and by the way, it's $20 to get on my OF. and then it's $50 each PPV. Each PPV I make is $50 every time, which means on average, people, not average, but let's say at least like so many people are going to be paid like $70 that month. Because like, yeah, but you might say, well, Brittany, you used to do calls for $250 an hour. Why'd you do that? That was a lot of emotional labor. And I wasn't creating, I was engaging with a relationship with people. So things aren't priced because the money represents the thing. It's the context of the situation. In the industry, a $50 PPV is kind of a lot. Bree Sky, who's a very popular OnlyFans girl, her PPVs are like $11, right? So what you're doing is you're meeting the industry. It's a lot for the industry, but it's not a lot compared to other things, right? My calls for Patreon, which were PG and not sex work, were $250 because it was a privilege. It was like a perk. It was like a big deal. And it paid for the content. You weren't just paying for the call, you were contributing the money to the content. So the money you paid went for paying for my time, plus the extra money went towards making the content. That's the point of Patreon, is that you're not paying for the thing you're getting. You're paying for the thing you're getting, and so the content gets supported. But OnlyFans was different, right? What are PPVs? Yeah, pay per view. Thank you, Maiden. So again, we have to have conversations about in what context am I charging? Why did I do nude parades for free? Why was my BDSM always for free? Because we were vibing, bro. Because I was hanging out with my friends. It's what I wanted to do when I wasn't working. When I wasn't working, I went to the dungeon and got naked with my friends. Why would I charge money for that? Because the context makes it different. So Lil Tay, Lil Tay engaging in capitalism in this way doesn't come at a benefit to anything more than her wallet. And let's be so for real, her brother and mother's wallet. Lil Tay, honestly, like, I hope they're not taking advantage of her. I hope that's not true. Just said, dude, $250 was worth it. I never got a call, but I know for sure they were priced right. Well, and when I first started doing calls, they were $70 for an hour and $30 for 30 minutes. Okay. When I first did calls, they were $30 for 30 minutes, basically is how I did it. And then there became such a demand that I was doing so many calls. Like I had such a high demand that I was like, I have to charge more for this because like I couldn't put the emotional labor of getting on a phone call and memorizing people's details and thinking about that person and like it naturally made it make sense. So I charged $250 and that still got booked. Like I charged $250 and it got booked right away. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, okay, cool. And then, well, the economy took a hit, so everybody else took a hit. And what did I do? I adapted, ladies. I adapted. Now $250 is outrageous. $70 is too much. Like the economy can't handle it, right? And so doing the calls didn't even make sense anymore, which is why I don't do them. Because the best way to get people into the content is showing up on stream. Do you know when I was doing calls, I was doing less YouTube content. I was putting out a podcast a week and I was doing a stream once a week. I couldn't be a daily streamer and do calls because calls take 3 hours every call. Every 1 hour call was a 3 hour time gap in my day. Every half an hour call was an hour and a half. Right? So I was either stream full time or do calls full time. And I wanted to be a content creator. I didn't want it. I never meant to have the calls be so successful. They were just there to help boost the content. And I was like, I have to go back and make money doing the thing I really came here to do, which was make content. So remember, like, is Lil Tay and all these people, are they making content for the love of the game or for the capitalism of it all? That's why when I see these video essayists and people, no judgment, say things like, I don't make enough money, I'm going to have to stop making video essays. What are you talking about? What do you mean? You make money? I don't even make money. Like, you make money? Like, I don't get what people are doing here. Like, what are you doing with that time? Even when I worked a full-time job, I came home and did YouTube. That was the point. I've been doing YouTube since I graduated high school. And I always worked another job. Yeah, because I love YouTube. I love YouTube. I love it. I'm not saying you have to love it, but I'm just saying, like, girl, Discord said, I wanted to be a content creator. Now you're following your dreams. So cute. Love it. I know. I'm so happy for me. I know. And you guys do make it possible. But you know, it really is the dream. It really is the dream, you know? It really is the dream. Uh-oh, Chad said mic limiter is kind of aggressive. My bad. I'm not an audio tech, let me tell you. But I did try to put a limiter on this because I scream way too often and my ears die. Okay, so hold on. Chad says faux feminism is alive and well, thriving even. I'm not sure what that means. Let me know if you want to expand on that. Let's see, you said, I'm still on the fence about sex work. I support sex workers, but I still believe it's unethical because they're not valued enough and we don't have a safe structure to protect sex workers as of yet. The world is too violent and misogynistic to value sex work. Okay, question. Here's the question. Should women wait around for men to catch up before we live our lives? Should minorities and ostracized communities wait for the world to catch up before we live our lives? Because we're gonna be waiting for a long time. Okay, I don't put my life on hold because other people haven't caught up. My life will not be paused because you have remained stagnant. Okay, so I value anyone's ability to make a healthy relationship with a thing that isn't overly acceptable to society or society doesn't understand. But, and I think this is the hard dilemma here, how do you as the creative really know you're in it for the right reasons? That's the question. You know, how do you as the creative know for a fact that you're actually engaging in your line of work for healthy reasons? And I would recommend every person working today ask themselves that question. And every person who refuses to work, you should ask that question. And every person who's an adult person should ask that question. Because this is why we do philosophy through pop culture. We are trying to ask ourselves, do we know why we even do what we do? Do we know why we're showing up at work? Do we know if we even love the work? Do we know that we feel good about it? Is this my dream? My dad owned his own business for 30 years and none of his 10 kids wanted it. It wasn't their dream, it was his. And he was really successful. He really fed and clothed those 10 kids off that business. Okay, he paid off his house and retired off that business. But none of his kids wanted the dream. So many people tell me, oh my God, you're so privileged. Your dad owns a business. You have your dream, like you have your life made for you. I don't want that dream. I don't want that business. I know it sounds good. I know a lot of people sit there and think like, oh my God, I would love it if my dad had business I could be a part of. Okay, so you be that dad. Stupid. You be that dad. Oh, I wish my dad had. No, you don't. You wish you had money. See how your reasons are so stupid? You wish you had money. You don't want to take over a business. You don't want to do what it takes to run a business. You don't want to be there when the tax man calls and says, give us $500,000 for tax. You ever got a $500,000 tax bill? You don't want to run a business, baby. Okay? You want the benefits of a successful business being run that guarantees you money. Okay, same with being a content creator. You don't want to be a content creator. You want the money. Okay, you want the fame. You don't want to be an OnlyFans, person. You want the $1 million you think you're going to get because you're Lil Tay. You're not going to get it. I made a joke in my head, and I did not make this in real life, but my Discord was talking about the Lil Tay situation, and I was like, man, I should redo my OnlyFans and be like, turning 18 in 24 hours. I'm 36. I'm 36. Brittany's about to turn 18, guys. Nudes drop at midnight. I think I'm so funny, bro. So, okay, there's just like so much of this is the like selling like a dream. And yeah, actually wait. That could work. You know that sex worker who killed herself? Habibi was going through it, girl. She was really going through it. What's her name? She was like 40. She was like 38, 40. And she was photoshopping her images to look really, really young. Which, by the way, as a girl aesthetically, some of those images I thought were so pretty. Coconut Kitty. When I first came across Coconut Kitty, I was like, oh my God, this girl is so pretty. Who is this girl? And then I was like, wait, is this photoshopped? And then you realize like, oh, her Photoshop got younger and younger and younger and younger. And you were like, oh, uh-oh, this is not good. And she was attacked constantly. And I think he was eating her up inside that she was playing so hard to the pedo baiting. I think it killed her spirit. Guys, you can't work a job, even if it's McDonald's, if it's killing your spirit. I've seen so many men crash out because they feel like they're selling their soul at work. You cannot exist this way as a person. It doesn't matter if you're a sex worker or you're a guy in an office. If you are going to work every day and it is eating at your soul, you will kill yourself. And that's not worth it. Whatever money you're making, whatever status you're getting, it's not working. It's not working. It's like the people who romanticize being Princess Di. Princess Di was a depressed lady, bro. She was literally trapped in a cage. You know? Chad says, isn't that just proof that there's way more predators than we'd like to admit? Look, I think we're evolved animals on a planet. Have you ever seen an animal hump like anything it sees? Yeah, that's us. We will hump anything we see. We'll hump pillows and couches. Like JD Vance has the whole couch joke thing, right? Yeah, human beings are gross. We're gross. We're disgusting. That's why, like, we have to raise our babies better because we're actually literally disgusting. We're literally the greatest, most disgusting thing that ever happened. I made a joke about apparently like the number one porn for a long time was like Overwatch porn. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then I heard it's like Minecraft now. I don't know if that's true. And I was like trying to think about, I'm like, oh, the sheep. Men fuck animals. People fuck animals, bro. I don't know. People fuck corpses, kids. I don't know why. Don't give yourself that much credit. But you know what's the scariest part of it? Is the most normal people you know are those people. It's not always the creepy guy with the obvious aesthetic. The most average, seemingly normal people be doing that shit. So I'm just saying, like, yeah. So for those people, and this is why I always say, you know, everyone always romanticizes having babies. Yeah, until that baby grows up to be a predator. What about the fact that people feel like they're born with a predisposition because they're animals on a planet? You know what I mean? Chess says, should there be a concern even in gay male dynamics about a guy using demeaning language and not meaning it? Yeah, we should always be concerned when we're using language we know is meant to signify abuse or humiliation. You know what I mean? Like, we should always be concerned that we're doing something for the wrong reasons or in the wrong way or in a way that isn't healthy. Okay? We have to do the work, though. I hate when I hear people say, like, well, I was 18 and I never did that. Okay, well, what have you done? One, I want to hear that you've done something. And two, I want you to understand that, like, why do you think that happened? Were you raised a certain way? Did you have a certain relationship with people? Because again, the goal isn't to make the world sexless. The goal isn't to make the world not human. The goal is to make the world better. So when I hear people say, like, well, I knew better at this age. Okay, congratulations. A lot of people don't. And also, I don't believe you. I don't know that I believe you. Right? Super chat from CJ. Thank you so much. Says, Brittany, where do you draw the line between surviving capitalism and working a job you don't like? Like, jobs suck, but I got to eat. Love your work. Absolutely. Great question. Thank you for the super chat. Talk about, okay. Ooh, great question. Let's get the paint out. When we talk about playing to our strengths when it comes to labor, we're talking about playing to our strengths when it comes to skill and values. Okay. Ooh, values. So first, playing to your strength when it comes to doing a job engages in what you actually can actually do. What is your what is your skill? And then how do you take that skill, wrap it around your values, and find yourself a job? Okay. So my skills, talking. Oh, this is too much to type. Talking, showing up on camera, socializing and talking to people for long spans of time, as long as it isn't in person, because I can't do it in person, actually. Fun fact. What other skills do I have? I actually gain spoons. I have an interest in engaging in difficult topics. Okay. How do I wrap that into my values? Well, I'm willing to be on YouTube. I'm willing to be a content creator. I'm willing to be on social media. I'm willing to put in the hours and the work. So none of that is against my values. Let's see. What can't I do? I can't stay stagnant. I got to make sure that I adapt. I got to make sure that if any of the companies I work with are really against my values, I don't engage with it. I pick and choose. Like my partner and I asked if Amazon came in and offered me $100,000 or even $1 million to take a stream package with them, would I do it? And I said no. We put a line in the sand. It's an arbitrary line. It doesn't really make sense because I would probably take it from YouTube. But why YouTube and not Amazon? I really fucking hate Jeff Bezos and I hate everything his company stands for more than I hate anything else, okay? But we talked about it as a family. I said, are you comfortable with the fact that I would turn down money, that level of money from Amazon? And my partner said, fuck yes. And I said, that's why we're married. That's why we're married. Because imagine I married somebody who's like, no, that's life-changing money. Like that's generational wealth. Like if he gave you $1 million, like we could send all the kids to college. Yeah, that wouldn't be my person. You know what I mean? But there are couples who have these fights every day. There are these couples who get into marriages and they're like, I can't believe you didn't take the money. And it's like, I can't believe you thought I was going to take the money. Right? Chet said, I wonder what your skill would have translated to pre-YouTube streaming. Well, radio. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be on radio, talk radio. I would have had a radio show. That's what I would have pursued. I would have pursued radio. I would have pursued blogging. I would have pursued any of those things. Yeah, that was my goal. Before YouTube, I was calling into radio shows as a kid. That was my goal. My parents always thought I'd be a radio host. Yeah, because I loved radio. Guys, like I knew all the DJs. I would flip to different channels to listen to the shows. I would call in since I was a little kid to Radio Disney and all the stuff. I loved radio. I'm really lucky YouTube became a thing. Yeah, I'm so lucky YouTube became a reality because, yeah, but I would have been a radio host. That's what I would have done. Did I answer the question, CJ? Do you have anything you want me to expand upon in the question? Jess says, I think if work or a job is taking away from your joy, this is when the change needs to be made. Oh my God, my throat's been crazy this week. Hold on. Bro, I'm dying over here. The summer allergies are fucking no joke, bro. Yeah, I think so too. We have to think about, okay, I remember I was working grocery. I was working grocery and I was working YouTube part-time and it was like nearing 2014. And I was in my mid-20s and I was miserable. I was just so sad because I was depressed and underdiagnosed and I didn't have any idea what was going on with me. I'd never been to therapy before. I was dating a guy 12 years older and everything was just messy. It was just like a messy fucking time in my life. And I worked really hard in this grocery store and people liked me. They really liked me and they wanted to promote me and they wanted me to stay. And I was like, yeah, I could do grocery. I could do this job. I realized I couldn't. But what really made me quit was I basically got told I would journeyman without the journeyman pay, meaning I would start training to be a manager without manager pay. And it was like a 10-cent raise. And I was like, so I worked this hard for your business to make $10 plus 10 more cents. And they're like, yeah, that's just how it goes before you make the actual money. And I was like, no. And they're like, no. And I was like, no. And they're like, well, that's how it works. I was like, well, then I'm quitting. And they're like, you're quitting? And they were shocked. They were like, I can't believe you're quitting. Why would you do this? Are you sure? Like, this is your last opportunity. I was like, I'm quitting. Okay. Blow my nose. Okay. So I quit that job. I went home. I didn't have much expenses. I was renting a room and my total expenses, because I didn't have a car or anything, was like $500 a month. And YouTube paid that. Okay. Because I was still working YouTube part-time and I had $500 a month I could pay my bills. I was like, okay, let me figure it out. But there was no, pause. No. This was not the no, pause. That's wrong. No, wait, is that right? No. Yeah. Yeah. That was right. I think that's right. Oh God, it's been so long now. I don't even know my own history. I think I had sold my car at this point. Or maybe it was just before, or maybe this was another car. Oops, I'm getting my story wrong. Either way, I had enough money to pay my bills. I wasn't worried because I remember thinking my expenses aren't that high. I don't remember exactly when this was, but I was renting a room for $420. And so rent was pretty cheap. And I decided to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks with my partner at the time because they had family in Hawaii who wanted to host us. So we went to Hawaii for 2 weeks and I didn't have a job. And his aunt recommended that I become a nanny. And I was like, oh yeah, I used to babysit all the time. She goes, no, you should be a professional nanny. And I was like, oh, a professional nanny. And I didn't understand it. Then I found care.com, which was started by a woman to put nannies and families together. They did background checks and accreditations, and it was like a whole thing. And then while I was on vacation in Hawaii, had my laptop and I was applying to all these jobs. And I did an interview. And by the time I got back, I had a job. Because I was like, yeah, I could do this. Okay. And that started off the next journey. Okay, now you do YouTube and you're a nanny. And now we're going to go from low wage to higher wage. And then I did that. And then I got YouTube full time. So I was a nanny. I was literally a nanny. Even during COVID, when COVID first started, I was still nannying and doing YouTube. And then COVID hit. My nanny family didn't need me anymore. The mom was going to stay home. And I went full on into YouTube. I just buckled down and did YouTube and said, no plan B, no other option. We're just doing YouTube. And boom. Okay. So I think, when I look back at my life, I think you need time to figure out what to do. I think when you look back, people need time. Not everyone, but I wasn't one of those people who knew what I wanted to do the moment I was born. I was one of those people who thought I was going to be an author, who thought I was going to be a radio host, who thought I could do so many different things. And I didn't know what was the main story. Even now, I have to tell myself not to try to be too many things. Because if you're neurodivergent like I am, you really could be good at anything. But even though I could be good at anything, and I really think I could be, within reason, I had to pick something to really dedicate my time to. Because you can't be good at everything. You actually need time to hone in a skill on one or two things. And that's the key part, I think, here. Okay, Chad says, is there a scenario where you think selling out can be worth it? Is there a scenario in which we think selling out could be worth it? I can't think of one. I'm trying to think about it. I think there's also a difference between being in survival mode and being in living mode. I can see why there might be a reason if you genuinely do not have the values, do not know better, and have no other option to sell out because you are in a genuinely bad place. But I think when you get to the point in your life where you actually have to have values and you say ride or die to some extent within reason, caveat, then selling out wouldn't make sense because just the premise of selling out puts you in a moral quandary, right? So I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. What scenario comes to mind when we think about selling out? Chet says, how do you define selling out? Is betraying your values? I consider selling out doing something you would never do and it makes you feel like a piece of shit because it's so anti your values, but you're willing to do it just for the money. I think if selling out is the thing you do that makes you feel disgusting, but you're but it's so much money. That's what what do you guys think selling out is? I think of it as a feeling as well. Once I get that feeling, I avoid it. If I get that feeling at all in anything I'm doing, I go, I'm doing something else. I kind of I don't know if it's my neurodivergency, but anytime that feeling shows up, I'm out. Whatever it is, a relationship, an action I'm taking, I'm out. Chad said, if that's the definition, then I'm never selling out. Chad said, selling out is when you sacrifice your living values for your survival values. Oh. I don't know about that. When I was in survival mode, I stole food. I stole food in a very ethical way, in my opinion. I stole sample cup food that was being thrown out. I didn't ever steal food that was meant for customers. I always stole food in ways that I thought were like the least amount of harm. And I would never do that now, right? Because like I don't need to take it. I don't need to risk getting fired, but I would risk getting fired to eat 100%. But I would, even when I was doing that, I would make sure that I did it in a way that was ethical, like a way that was like not stealing from like the company wasn't going to make money off of it realistically, right? So I was like, I was trying to do things, but I could get fired. If I had gotten caught, I would have gotten fired for stealing, but I thought it was worth the risk. Okay. So I even when I do things that I would never do now, I do them in ways that I think are the most ethical. But I have done things not for money that were way more unethical in my opinion. Like I think I've done things when I was at my most toxic and didn't have values. I think I did things out of being desperate that were the most unethical, more so than whatever I ever did for money. And that's the thing. We forget that we do deeply unethical things for free. I think the worst things I ever did as a person, I did perfectly for free. I was so fucked up. And like, I didn't even get paid. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I didn't even make money. Yeah, Chet said I've worked jobs where we can't give food to homeless people, even though we threw out hundreds of dollars. I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I hated working in those food industries. I hated throwing away food. It pissed me off, bro. They're really, chef, for the love of the game, for the love of the game. But yeah, throwing away food pisses me off, bro. You know? It makes me so mad. I hate it. I hate it. Okay. And I think, okay, because Maiden, you said betraying your values for money. Let's talk about that because somebody might say, well, Brittany, I'm a communist and I don't believe in the capitalistic system and I don't want to engage in capitalism in any way. Okay. Who does really? But like also there is a part of this where like we do have to grow up and be adults and manage and like really manage within the structure we are uncomfortable in. So we all engage in something that's quote against our values in order to move the world forward in ways that, you know, we just kind of have to. Because, you know, we don't really have as... I don't get to live in society and dictate it all. I'm not a dictator, right? We're anti-dictatorship. So I can't dictate that the world is kind. The world has to become kind on its own through its own work, right? So I think sometimes there's this dilemma. I'm sorry. Oh my God. My throat is a mess right now. I'm sorry. I think sometimes there is this like misconception that that I'm not going to do anything because I can't do anything perfect. That's why I didn't ask for it. I don't ask for perfection. I want harm reduction. So maybe making the money is unethical to you because you're working for a corporation that you think is unethical. Pick a different corporation. And if you say all corporations are unethical, you have to contend with that reality now. You have to be the one who processes the information. Because listen, I go deep when I think about, there are conversations I've wanted to have with you guys that I don't know how to have with you guys without people mishearing me. Because when I problem solve, I deconstruct as many layers as I have to come to a realization. And I put a lot of the emphasis on my own responsibility because I can't control you. I can only decide what I do. And so as a couple, as an example, one of the reasons I also married my partner is we do everything we can to follow the rules within reason, because one of the responsibilities we have to one another is to not put each other in a position where we're going to face some sort of knowable outcome in a legality concept, in a legality way. Obviously, all of us deal with like the government and stuff like that naturally. That's just a part of being a person. But like, I don't want to have to like live with them bearing a body or, you know, running a scam or a Ponzi scheme or something. Like, I don't want to have to be in a position where we put our loved ones in these positions. So, and this goes all the way to the beginning. Like, I remember when we were doing immigration stuff, as an example, the immigration lawyers we talked to in America told us that the way we have to do it, and I've heard this from so many people, is we have to go to America and he has to overstay his visa, become an illegal, and then petition. And I said, I'm not doing that. I am not risking him breaking any rules that's going to cause an issue on his record. And I can't believe you would ask us to do that. But apparently, because of the way the Trump administration has been doing things, this is how people have recommended doing the process. This is what we heard from actual lawyers. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go and just do it the legal way because we don't want to put each other at risk in any capacity. Because everything we do from then on is going to be like, I don't want to play that game. If that's the way the game is played, I don't want to be a part of it. And that's the thing. Like, so we went to Croatia because it didn't require us to play fucking games like that. Croatia has been very inviting and nice, and it didn't require me to do anything bad or illegal or risk anything. Now, you guys know, okay, I don't really even care about this idea of legal or not legal. I care about the system using it as an excuse to dehumanize you, which is just a reality of it, right? So I always prioritize doing the best thing possible with the most realistic outcome. We make it in countries we can make it in, we follow the rules, and we figure out how to make our life work for us. And if it can't work in America in a way that doesn't feel like a threat to our life, we're not going. Okay? And I paid for those phone calls to those lawyers, or I paid, you know, like I'm talking about like real people. So again, there's just like a part of adulting that requires you to also make hard decisions. Like it really requires you to do the research and to make the decision that you can kind of predict what might happen in 20 years. Like where would this put our family in 20 years if we did this? Can we get out of this? Okay. And look, as I've broken enough rules in my life, done enough drugs in my life for fun to know that I could have gone to jail, or even when I remember my partner and I talked about this too. Like I don't do marijuana in Croatia. It's available somewhere here, I'm sure. But like, I'm not going to do it. It's 12 years I read for getting caught with marijuana. I'm not going to jail here. And we talked about this as a couple. Even if I visited America, I don't want to do drugs because what if I get tested here in Croatia? Like I am so trying to follow the rules. It's not even funny. Because I'm not trying to go to prison for 12 years. Like, but in America, when I was single, I did take those risks. But now that I'm married, I'm not taking those risks. Because if I go to prison, now my partner has to deal with that reality. If I went to prison for doing marijuana as a single person, I would have made it my new activism. I would have been like, fuck the prison system. You know what I mean? I would have made it my whole personality. And that would have been like my life's journey. But if I went to, jail now or prison now my partner who didn't consent to being a weed activist would have to kind of make it their new thing. They'd probably have to come on my channel and raise awareness for the next 20 years while I'm sitting there in prison. Do you know what I mean? So there's like a part of adulting that has to come into play. But to be fair, it's really hard to adult. And it's really hard to know how to do things. And it's really hard to know how to engage in a life that's going to be easier. That's why I said yesterday, and I say it again, girls, if you live on your own, if you have roommates, if you have your own apartment, which I hope you do as an adult, you can do whatever you want. You are not trapped. You are free. It is your space. Honor the space. Love the space. Make love to the space. Okay? Understand, this is what I do. Sometimes if I'm feeling the weight of the world, like the burden of the world, I go down to the supermarket. Okay, walk to the supermarket. I stand in the store and I remind myself, like, you can buy whatever you want. Your parent can't tell you not to buy it. The store can't tell you not to buy it. You can buy anything you want. What do you want? Anything. Look at this whole store. What do you want? You can buy it. I go, yeah, I can buy it. Okay. I take a budget and I go to the store and I go, what do I want? It's a reminder that like, you're not a kid anymore. Okay. No one's going to come and take away your popcorn. It's like, go to the store and buy something. I usually buy a pudding. I really like vegan pudding. The store has this really great vegan chocolate pudding. I've been really enjoying it. I feel like I put on a couple of pounds eating it, honestly, but I'm on my period and I don't want to hear anybody judge me. Okay. It's so good. And I'm like, that's the thing. And that's what I want you to do. I just want you to take a deep breath and realize, like, within reason, don't overspend your budget. Go buy yourself a pudding. Okay. Go buy yourself a pudding. All right. Kat says harm reduction is very important. Very important to hear how it plays out in interpersonal relationships. Absolutely. It's so important. It's important as a citizen, as a community member. We have to do our best to harm reduce. Like, okay, this is something that my partner and I are always like, oh my God, about. So we have a dumpster system in our apartment, and people in the building, I don't know what it is with people. They always dump everything in the first cans available. And it overflows, and then it gets onto the road. And I'm like, there are other buckets. You don't have to do it in this first one. And so we make it an effort to never put anything in the first bins, because we know it overflows, and then it gets litter, and then there's trash flying around. So we always make an effort to go to the other ones. But guys, the other ones are right next door. They're right there. And I don't know why we can't figure out, why do people in the building keep doing it? Like, I have to assume you're adults. Why are you doing this? And we've had other neighbors complain, like, why are people doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. I think they're not thinking like community members. They're not thinking. Like, why would you overflow the trash can when you could just literally, they're right next to each other. They're touching. They're touching. It's not like they have to walk to the other side of the building. And I cannot figure it. Like, I'm just looking at them like, how hard is this? It's so strange. And so again, like, I understand why, you hear people say like, I'm going to be an individual, fuck the community, because the community sucks. The community sucks. But I take an opposite approach because I'm an optimist. The community sucks, so I better not suck too. I put the responsibility on me as an individual, in the hopes that I as an individual will kind of reflect a community at whole. So I'm not going to start sucking because the world sucks. And that's what values are about. You can't make me become a bad person because you're a bad person. I'd rather die. And there's something about that, dying for what you believe in, right? I think it's hard for people though, because some of y'all really like to live, but none of you live good lives. I will never be more shocked at people who are so afraid of dying, but don't do anything with their life. I'm shooketh to my core. I'm just so shook to my core that you literally live the most miserable life and complain about it every day, but then you refuse to die. And I don't mean this in a literal suicidal sense. I mean in a philosophical sense. Like, what is so good about living unless you're living? Living. Just crazy, bro. I can't. It's just interesting. This is why I love philosophy, though. Philosophy forces you to answer that question. Why are you doing that? Nothing else really forces you to answer that question. Society certainly isn't asking you to answer that question. It doesn't want you to. But philosophy forces you to actually know why you do something. Okay? So I guess to wrap up this segment, we're going to take a break and come back. Lil Tay is not at fault for her actions, but she is responsible in growing into a human being that doesn't contribute to the pedo baiting that is so popular in society. But until she gets free of the bubble she's in and free from her family who put her in this position, I don't think she'll ever actually get the chance to question it. Because she's being reinforced not by just her family, but the world around her, that pedo baiting is worth it because it made so much money. And this is going to be at some point her responsibility and a reflection of her values. But I'm not going to blame the 18-year-old. But maybe when she's 26 or 30, I might wonder how she feels about making content that pedo baited people into giving her money.